So Charli Damelio lived in a $1 million house, recently moved to a $5.5 million house, and within the last 3 months has moved to a $14 million modern mansion, which somebody like yourself or I can only dream of ever living in.
I don't care about big houses.
No,
personally.
this is the type of house that you would go bring 30 of your friends to on an Airbnb trip to Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be even able to afford it either way. Just some facts. She spends $55,000 a month on rent and did not buy the house. I just want to get into the reason why somebody would spend $660,000 a year on a house instead of actually buying it.
First of all, does she pay for it or is somebody sponsoring her family?
So the way I view it is, obviously the whole family lives together. Charli is probably the highest income earner in the family, but Dixie can't be far behind, and the father can't be far behind Dixie. So they probably together.
No, the parents are far behind.
Yeah, well, doesn't the dad have like special deals with like?
I think he's being paid the least.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
he's
not as good of a dancer.
They all have special. I think like Charli, she has to do exclusive content with Triller.
What I think is, I have no idea what the family arrangement is, but obviously there's some sort of family pool where let's buy this house together, let's rent this house together. Or Charli just makes so much money, hey dad, I got the house. Whatever. if your 60-year-old daughter can buy a house for you, I'm down. I don't care. It doesn't even matter. They spend $660,000 a year on rent, and I did some calculations here. If they were to buy a $14 million house, the mortgage would be $60,000 a month, so already more than what they pay in rent. Their taxes would be about $60,000 to $100,000 a year, and then the utility bill, which they still pay now, would be about $20,000 a month. And then their insurance is about $20,000 a year. From my perspective, you have a lot of people like the Charli D'Amelios of the world who turn around and say, you know what, I'm going to rent this $15 million house because I'm actually going to save $300,000 this year. The conventional real estate practice, there's hundreds of videos about this. People argue, should you rent or should you buy? And my argument is always, I think you should rent until you actually have the money that you can afford the house, right? Because what happens is that you don't understand when you actually buy a house what like the sunken costs are of a house. In rent, the only sunken cost is the rent. When you rent something for $2,000 a month, the sunken cost is $24,000 a year. When you buy a house with a mortgage of $2,000 a month, your $2,000 a month is not technically a sunken cost because it goes into your equity, but then your maintenance, which is roughly 10 to 15% of the mortgage of a year, right? And then your taxes is a sunken cost. And what happens is it winds up being on a yearly basis twice as much as what you would have spent just renting. It's hard for people in like the normal world who say, nah, I'm not going to rent. It's not worth it. But when you look at it from a perspective of $15 million, and it saves you $300,000 a year. Somebody like Charli D'Amelio, when your financial advisor goes, hey, I have a way to save you $500,000 this year, and it's to rent instead of buy, you're going to listen to him.